Well, let me first start by thanking all of you for being a part of this today. We look forward to answering your questions here in a few minutes, and this is an important part of this process. I want to thank Senator Jack Woodbury. He's been our campaign chairman from the very beginning and has traveled the length and width of this state with us, and we're just grateful to him for, you know, we're getting closer to Election Day and the campaign's getting a little bigger where he doesn't have to drive us anymore. We actually have somebody driving us now, but he's been phenomenal. I'm so grateful to him for that. And I want to thank Trey for coming all the way from South Carolina. He is a phenomenal member of Congress. He is one of those guys that's up there for the right reason, and that's to make a difference. And more importantly, to do one of the most important things Congress is supposed to do, and that is hold accountable those who serve us in the executive branch. And he has done that and continues to do that, and I'm proud that he's standing alongside us here today. And I'm here today because I want, hopefully, to convince you to caucus for me. We're 5 weeks away of the most important election in a generation. And I know it, and it begins here. The process of replacing Barack Obama, and more importantly, the process of selecting what the future of America is going to be. And I want to be the President of the United States. I want to be the President of the United States, and I want to earn your support. Because I believe this is, no, I don't believe, I know that this is the single greatest nation in the history of all mankind. There has never been a country like America. It was founded on this very powerful principle. The principle was that our rights don't come from the government. They come from God. From that, the principle that every single human being is equal in the eyes of our Creator, and therefore, all life, at every stage of life, is precious. The result of that was we embraced individual liberty, which made us the freest people that have ever lived. We embraced free enterprise, which made us the most prosperous people that have ever lived. And for over 2 centuries, America has been that country that inspired the world and the place where people would come to from all over the world in search of a better life. And yet, despite all these things that are so special about America, there have always been people in American politics, particularly on the radical left, that have believed something very differently about our country. They believe America is a flawed country in need of radical reform. They've always believed that. These are people that believe that we need more government because we cannot be trusted to make decisions for ourselves or for our family. These are people who believe we need more government engagement in our economy because free enterprise is an unfair system in which only a handful of people make all the money, and businesses can only make a profit by exploiting their workers or by exploiting their customers. These are people who believe and look at suspicion with people that have traditional values. They view Americans with traditional values with great suspicion. People that cling to their guns or their religion, or people that do not trust, or people that do not like those who are different from them. And these are people that believe America is an arrogant global power, a nation that needs to be humbled and that needs to seek atonement for our past around the world. There have always been people that believe this in America. The problem is in 2008, one of them was elected President of the United States. And he has undertaken, in his 7 years of president, a systematic and deliberate effort to redefine this country, our economy, our government, and our nation itself. And the results are the catastrophe we see before us. A government that has taken over the economy, healthcare, and is trying to take over our schools with Common Core. An all-out assault on our constitutional liberties, in particular the Second Amendment right to bear arms and religious liberties in this country, and a foreign policy that can largely be described as this: betray your allies, cut deals with your enemies, weaken your military, and travel the world apologizing for America. The truth is that for 7 years, instead of fixing our problems, Barack Obama and now Hillary Clinton, instead of fixing the problems in America, they hope to change America. And that is why so many people feel left behind. They don't recognize their own country anymore. They feel left behind and out of place and insecure about the future of America. For example, Americans who believe in traditional marriage are now labeled as outdated haters and bigots. If you're pro-life, they say you're waging a war on women. Instead of focusing on people that are working harder than they've ever worked and making less, they are focused on expanding government programs, oftentimes to help people who refuse to work themselves. We know that ISIS is trying to infiltrate people into the United States using the Syrian refugee crisis. But if you say that somehow you want to limit the number of refugees coming, they say, well, that's a hateful thing. We see terrorists beheading people, killing people in San Bernardino and in Paris. And we have a president that believes that climate change is the greatest challenge before the world today. You see that our military cuts are going to leave us with the smallest and the oldest Navy we've had in 100 years. The smallest and oldest Air Force we have ever had. And instead of fighting to fund our troops, he spends his political capital fighting to fully fund Planned Parenthood. This is why people are so disgusted with politics. This is why they feel so out of touch, that government is so out of touch. This is why they are so angry at both political parties. This is why 5 years ago I ignored the Republican establishment. And I ran against the sitting governor of Florida for the United States Senate. And that's why I ignored him again now when they came to me and said, don't run, wait your turn, it's not your time. Wait your turn. Wait for what? Wait, this is not a time for patience after 7 years of Barack Obama. If we do not get this election right, we may not be able to turn back. And we may not be able to turn around the things that are going wrong in this country. This is a time of extraordinary urgency. And that's what this election needs to be about. We need a president in 2016 that is in touch with what people are facing in this country. And let me tell you, I am in touch with what people are facing because I've faced many of these things myself. I want to know, how is Hillary Clinton going to lecture me about people living paycheck to paycheck? I grew up paycheck to paycheck. My wife and I have actually lived paycheck to paycheck in the past. I want to know how she's going to lecture me about student loans. I owed over $100,000 in student loans just 4 years ago. I want to know, how is she going to lecture me about how hard it is for parents and families in the 21st century? My wife Jeanette and I are raising 4 children in the 21st century right now. And we have to work harder than ever to ensure that our children, we can instill in them the values that they teach in my church, not the values that they teach in the media or in Hollywood. But we don't just need a president that knows it's wrong in America. We also need a president that knows how we can turn this around. A president who knows exactly what we need to do to make this country that it's better than it's ever been. I do. And when I'm president, I will. It's going to begin on my very first moments in office. I'm going to place my left hand on the Bible and my right hand in the air, and I'm going to take the oath of office. And I'm going to swear to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And unlike our current president, I will actually mean it. I'll mean it and I'll do it. I will appoint judges and an attorney general that defend the Constitution and the constitutional rights of all Americans, especially the right to bear arms and the right in our religious liberties. When I get to the Oval Office, I will immediately begin the work of undoing the damage Barack Obama has done to the United States. I will repeal every single one of his illegal, unconstitutional executive orders that he has put in place, and I'll do it on my first day in office. That means I'm getting rid of all these crazy overreaches by the EPA. That means we are stopping any and all work on imposing Common Core on this country. That means we're going to stop any and all taxpayer funding of abortions overseas. That means that we're going to continue the work. One of the things I'm going to do on my first day in office is I will put the prestige and power of the presidency behind a constitutional convention of the states. You know why? Because that is the only way that we are ever going to get term limits on members of Congress or the judiciary, and that is the only way we're ever going to get a balanced budget amendment. First day in office, we are going to cancel Barack Obama's deal with the Ayatollah in Iran. It is a dangerous deal. When I'm president, we're going to bring jobs back to America by embracing free enterprise. That means we're going to fix our tax code, we are going to reduce and put a hard cap on regulations, and we are going to produce more oil and more natural gas than this country has ever produced. That's how we're going to bring jobs back to the United States. On the issue of Obamacare, every Republican running for president is against Obamacare. I am the only one running for president of the United States that has ever done anything about it. In 2009, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and Barack Obama cut a deal with the big insurance companies and created a taxpayer-funded bailout that was going to be in place to bail out insurance companies that lost money under Obamacare. Well, in 2014, I wiped out that bailout fund. And I saved the taxpayers over $2 billion in the process. Now, some believe that wiping out that bailout fund will lead to the collapse of Obamacare. I certainly hope so. But whether it does or doesn't, when I'm president of the United States, we are going to get rid of Obamacare once and for all. Trey a moment ago mentioned immigration. There is no one running for president of the United States who understands immigration better than I do. Because both of my parents were immigrants. Because I was raised in a community of immigrants. I still live in a community of immigrants. Every one of my neighbors is either an immigrant or a first-generation person. And let me say this. As the son of immigrants, I know for a fact that enforcing our immigration laws is not anti-immigrant. We are a sovereign country. We have a right and an obligation to have immigration laws, and we have a right to enforce them. And when I'm president, we will. We're not going to have amnesty. When I'm president of the United States, I will cancel the president's illegal amnesty acts. I will take away funds from sanctuary cities. They're going to lose all of their federal funding, and we will deport dangerous criminals out of this country. But it's more than that. We're going to secure our border after 30 years of talking about it. And we know how to do it. 20,000 new border agents. Finish the 700 miles of fencing and walls. Put in place a system of at least $4 billion of new technology to identify when people are trying to cross the border in the first place. Put in place a mandatory E-Verify system for employees. Put in place an entry-exit tracking system to prevent people from overstaying visas. If we do that, we will secure the border, and we will bring illegal immigration under control. Here's the other thing I understand about immigration. It is not the same issue it was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even 1 year ago. Immigration is no longer simply about whether someone is coming here looking for a job. Immigration is no longer simply about whether what we're going to do to win the next election. Immigration has become increasingly about national security, because we know there are people in this country. We know there are people that are trying to use our immigration system, both legal and illegal, to get people into the United States to attack us. And so when I'm president of the United States, we will still be a compassionate and loving nation, but we will have a very simple criteria. If we are not 100% certain of who you are and why you are coming, you will not be allowed to enter the United States. Because in the 21st century, the threats we face are too extraordinary. And we must change with these new threats that we now face. On national security in general, there are a lot of people running for president. They talk real tough about it. How we're going to bomb ISIS, carpet bomb ISIS. How the sands of the Middle East are going to glow in the dark. Well, you can't carpet bomb ISIS. And you certainly can't make the sands of the Middle East glow in the dark if you don't have bombs and you don't have airplanes. And we are gutting our military, and for the life of me, I do not understand how it can be that there are some Republicans running for president that want to continue these dangerous defense cuts. National security is the reason why we have a federal government. Commander-in-chief is the most important obligation of the president. I can tell you, when I am president of the United States, we will stop these defense cuts, and we will rebuild our military, because the world is a safer and a better place when America is the strongest military power in the entire world. War on terror. We are going to have a real war on terror. We are going to have a military that is capable of finding and destroying terrorists. And if we happen to capture them alive, we are going to give them a one-way ticket to Guantanamo, and in Guantanamo we are going to find out every little thing they know about plots past, present, or future. After 7 years of Barack Obama, and by the time we are done with this process, 8 years, America is indeed a great nation in decline. But it doesn't have to remain this way. We are not a weak country. We just have a weak president. And that's why it's so important that we act now. That's why we can't afford another 4 years like the last 8 years. That's why Hillary Clinton can't be elected president. And that's why we can't just vote for any Republican. This election is not a simple choice between political parties. It is much deeper than that. This election is a generational choice about what kind of country we want to be in the 21st century. I'm running for president because America owes me nothing. But I have a debt to America I will never fully repay. This isn't just the country I was born in. This is the exceptional nation that literally changed the very history of my family. And America did not become exceptional by accident. It didn't happen on its own. America became an exceptional country because over 2 centuries, each generation did what they needed to do. They confronted their challenges, and they embraced their opportunities. And because they did for over 200 years, each generation of Americans has left the next better off. Now the time has come for our generation to do our part. That is what this election is about. And I hope I can earn your support, because if I am your president, we are going to return to the principles that made America great. If I am your president, this generation will confront our challenges, but we will also take advantage of our opportunities. And if I am your president, we won't just reclaim the American dream, we will expand it to reach more people and change more lives than ever before. And together, we are not just going to make the 21st century as good as the 20th century, we are going to make it better. We are going to make the 21st century a new American century. And so I hope in answering your questions here today that I can earn your support in the caucuses, and ultimately together we can be the authors of the greatest chapter in the amazing story of America. Thank you.